Welcome back. If you just joined us watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channels Television live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The Nigerian army steps up war against insurgents. Nigerian Senate ends screening for ministerial nominees. House of Representatives summons CBN governor over the bank verification number. Federal government shares 389 billion naira among the three tiers of government. Iran is to attend multilateral talks on finding solutions to the conflict in Syria. Let's share with you some of the pictures we've received in our eyewitness portal. Let's begin with this one from Port Harcourt, Rivers State, showing a fallen electric pole resting on a saloon car parked in front of a commercial bank and damaging it. Our eyewitness reporter says this happened in Woju area of the city and is asking the Power Holding Company of Nigeria to do something about the incident. Next is a picture showing an overloaded truck, our reporter says was sighted in Okyogun, Oyo State. He's calling on road safety officials to keep a close eye on road users. Finally, we have this picture of a transformer which our reporter says has been abandoned for a long time in Idera, Shagamu, Ogun State. He wants concerned authorities to do something about this dilapidated public property. Thank you for sending in those pictures, and please keep them coming, knowing that you too can become an eyewitness reporter for Channels Television. The President has held talks with the Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, with focus on deepening cooperation and using the potential of both countries to greater advantage. Briefing State House correspondents on the outcome of the dialogue, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the discussions also centered on how India and Nigeria can assist each other to meet the aspirations of becoming members of an expanded United Nations Security Council. President Muhammadu Buhari also met with the Nigerian community in India, promising to make Nigeria more secure, especially with regard to the health sector, to avoid capital flight. The president also reiterated his administration's resolve to curb corruption and plug all loopholes in the public sector accounting. He vowed to vigorously pursue the recovery of stolen funds and the prosecution of persons indicted for corrupt practices. This, he added, is to serve as deterrent to others who nurse the ambition of seeking public office solely for illegal personal gain. The president has said that the fall in oil prices will not deter his administration from maintaining macroeconomic stability and improving investor confidence in Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari said this during an interactive session with chief executives of Indian companies with interests in Nigeria as part of his visit to India to attend the third India-Africa Summit. The president, who admitted that some of the measures being adopted to revamp the economy may affect some businesses negatively in the short term, said he was optimistic that Nigeria will be better for it subsequently. He noted that given the nation's human and material resources, Nigeria's economy does not have to suffer unduly from low oil prices. He also urged the Indian business executives to scale up their interests in the country. He, however, urged them to carry out their business operations according to Nigeria's laws, as the importation of substandard goods into the country will not be tolerated. Now, the president is visiting India for the first time since becoming Nigeria's leader. A lot is expected to be achieved from this visit, which coincides with the India-Africa Summit. The issues of poverty in Africa and elimination of terrorism are highlights of the summit, which begins tomorrow. Joining me now on the news at 10 to look at the president's visit to India is Ambassador Ndubisi Amaku, Nigeria's immediate past High Commissioner to India. He joins us from Abuja. Ambassador, thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you. Good evening.
Well, you've been High Commissioner to India and you understand the culture. You also understand the political thinking of Asia. How do you think Nigeria should present itself at the summit?
Thank you. Before I to the details of your question, it is important to emphasize that Nigeria had long history of friendship and association, predating our independence. India established its first mission in Africa in Nigeria in 1958 before even we were getting independence in 1960. And shortly after that, in 1963, they established a full diplomatic mission in Lagos. And since we have been associating with India, our trade volume as today stands about 20 billion, and almost hoping to exceed that figure by the year 2016 or 2018. But at the moment, issues in our relationship, especially in terms of economy, some observers like myself feel that these volumes or these trade volumes do not actually reflect the strength, the significance of our bilateral relations. The reason is that both countries have not fully exploited the full potentials in our bilateral relations, and especially the comparative advantage, owned by each other, especially that from Nigeria, from India. The point I'm making is that apart from the visit of President Buhari, which is just currently going on, the exchanges, especially official visits between two countries, have not been regular and frequent as would be expected of two countries which have had very long history of association. But now that we have started, and especially with using the opportunity and the platform of the third India Africa Forum, I'm expecting, especially with what you have already said, narrated, had transpired already between Narendra Modi and our president, we are very hopeful and optimistic that some of those issues that have been latent will now be actively, explored and developed, especially an issue of the economy, security, defense cooperation, and trade and investment.
Ambassador, can I quickly take you up on some of the issues you've mentioned? You said economy, you said we've not fully exploited that. You also mentioned security. Now, India is no stranger to terrorism. It's had its own battles currently going on, especially with neighboring Pakistan and Nigeria, also dealing with the insurgency in the northeast. How do you think both countries can learn from each other and help each other get through this fight against terrorism?
Good. I'm glad because India has comparative advantage over Nigeria. The issue of terrorism is just a recent phenomenon, in Nigeria. But India has had its own since independence. So they have most of the potentials and opportunity, and even in terms of expertise, experience in dealing with this. When I was in India, I did advise that we should come closer and learn from the experience, knowledge, and expertise of India in this regard. India possesses not only the appropriate intelligence and equipment, but also the long years of its engagement in terrorism has given them an added advantage over us in terms of knowledge and experience. We do have, gladly, an active defense and security cooperation with India, and the two parties have been meeting on this. Actually, it is the security arm of our cooperation agreement that is much more active than economic, and this is heartening, and this is very relevant, especially at this time. So India's experience will, if we cooperate fully and actively with India, will assist us in handling our own issue, especially in the Northeast and other areas of security threats.
Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. Really appreciate your insight on the President's visit to India. And as talks begin tomorrow, we do hope that relations will be mended and become more cordial between the two. I've been speaking with former Nigerian High Commissioner to India, Ambassador Ndubisi Amako, on the President's visit for the third India-Africa Summit, which begins tomorrow. Well, the President has said that the fall in oil prices will not deter his administration from maintaining macroeconomic stability and improving investor confidence in Nigeria. President Buhari said this during an interactive session that he had with chief executives of Indian companies who have interests in Nigeria as part of his visit to India to attend the third India-Africa Summit. The President, who admitted that some of the measures being adopted to revamp the economy may affect some businesses negatively in the short term, said he was confident that Nigeria will be better for it subsequently. Some civil society organizations have described the federal government's response to economic issues as slow and without recourse to the plight of citizens. According to activists who met in Abuja to review the nation's economy 5 months after the new government came into being, Nigeria's economy is still in crisis as unemployment rate continues to rise. The group called on the government to set clear fiscal policies that will reverse the current trend.
The essence of this meeting by civil society organizations is to review the nation's economy 5 months after the government was voted into office. According to them, citizens expect that 5 months down the line, the government should have come out with fiscal policies that will reverse the economic crisis it inherited from the previous administration.
The reason majority of Nigerians had given the new regime the mandate is that they believe that the regime can tackle, confront the problems as promised during the electioneering campaign. So 5 months of the new regime, it's important, to encourage the regime to announce 3 major transition plans. There is a need for a fiscal transition plan.
The group has also criticized the government for excluding citizens from economic decisions, an action they say has plunged the country into economic crisis.
We don't know what the current economic policies of government are, and I think that's why we're convening today to look at or get a sense of understanding of it. Government has been very slow in defining its economic policies. There's no Minister of Finance. The central bank is implementing policies that we're quite worried about, in the sense that we don't see a direction for the country. Unemployment is becoming a major concern, and businesses are not understanding what to do and how to cope with the current central bank policies that are busy shutting down businesses. So it's a major concern for us.
Citizens are deeply excluded from economic decision making. Therefore, decisions are made concerning the economy that are not impacting on the lives of the people. Therefore, economic decisions have become decisions for the sake of economics, and therefore also becomes decisions that are actually meant only to be read in the pages of newspapers or documented in reports. Poverty is increasing, unemployment is increasing, inequality is increasing, the economy is in a deep crisis, deeply inherited crisis that needs urgent action.
On the way forward, these rights activists urge the government to set fiscal, economic and financial policies that will rescue the nation.
When the News at 10 returns, our community report focuses on shoemaking in Aba, in Abia State. Please join us again.